Hello, welcome to another video. I'm just doing a part two on homosexuality. Well, what I was saying in my last video, at the end of my last video, was that that I had a best friend in high school, and he was a homosexual, and he was um, he had um, such maturity, and he understood a lot of things. He just um, he had like a like knowledge of how things worked in the world. I guess some people would call it like common sense or something, not book smarts, street smarts or whatever people call it. Definitely had like a understanding of things. But on the other hand, I knew a homosexual that was very mean also, um, and bullied me and picked on me. And he seemed he seemed like I guess he had been through something really terrible to be such um, an extreme bully. He was just very over aggressive and mean, and so I don't really look at it like um, a homosexual or being a homosexual makes you one thing or another. But I have a lot of respect for the friend I had, um, and he had more maturity and understanding than a lot of people that weren't homosexual. So um, it was just, I think it just really puzzled me, like what creates the lifestyle of a person that is a homosexual, I guess, because there are different types, just like any other person you'll see. There are different types of um, women, there are different types of men, there are different types of communities, things like that. So um, I think my point to that was that that like it's it's I mean it's really easy, I think, for a person to look at another person a certain way, like a homosexual. But um, I think nobody can fit one stereotype. Um, but that's probably why I feel like God kind of looks at it like it's not the lifestyle that's the problem. Um, I'll just take overeating as an example. Um, I mean, there are lots of good people and bad people who overeat, but like the overeating is a symptom of some problem, right? So, and it's not a positive. It can lead you to be overweight, and it can lead to consequences. I only say that because I have that problem, and and like I know that God doesn't really look at the problem to me. Like I said, He doesn't look at it like you're right or wrong. He just looks at it like uh, He's given you the rule to follow, and he's disappointed if you don't. Sad. Um, he knows you can get into deeper issues if you go into this one issue. Now, I wish that weren't true in the world, um, but I've seen it for myself. If you Even if you're ignorant of what's going to take you down um, a bad path or a good path, or towards Satan or God, whatever you want to say, um, you will go down that path, um, and most likely learn that you committed something I'll still use the word sin, that you committed a sin. Sometimes you don't see that till you look back. So, um, I guess I'm kind of getting off my point here, but um, you know, it's I don't know. I think it's just really hard to talk about homosexuality in a way that is a problem, but you know, God's rules are God's rules. I mean, I don't really look at it like this person is a bad person or they're doing something wrong. I mean, that's just me myself. Um, I tend to just feel sorry for this person because I know how it feels, of course, to go down this path of like once you do one thing, you start doing another. Like I said, I um, when I would be around certain types of people, and like dating was like this. If I if I have this attitude that I can have sex before marriage, um, I end up being around certain types of people, and I end up doing certain things that can get me into trouble, like smoking or whatever. Now, not everybody is a bad influence that has sex before marriage. It's kind of like I said. It doesn't make you a bad person. It doesn't even determine who you are, really, if you're doing these things that go against God. I'll just say it that way. Um, it just kind of can set your path if you're not careful. You just have to be real careful when when you do things like that. When you do things that go against the rules. Um, you know, some people feel like it's not a big deal um, to have an affair with a married person, and I've seen people like that myself, and um, I've seen people that um, kind of like I said before, they're um, they're either like, I know this is kind of vague, but they're either good people or bad people, right? Like um, I guess it kind of depends on their background. Some people do make mistakes. They break God's rules out of desperation, and some people break God's rules because they don't have any respect for God because of probably what they went through growing up. That their parents, uh, you know, were so horrible to them they can't respect God through it. So I think my main point with that was like, if you look at these behaviors that go against God or break God's rules, that doesn't really determine what kind of person you are. But you just have to be careful about the path that you can start. Like I said, I knew people that um, would have sex before marriage, and they would just do a lot of other stuff that was really questionable. They smoked and stuff like that. But I've known people that had sex before marriage that were not were not doing things like that. Were better people. They had jobs. They were functioning in society. I mean, so it goes either way. But well, I think that's why I just want to stress that, like, um, when God looks at homosexuality, I don't think that He looks at it as like a bad thing. Like I said, it's breaking a rule. Um, Maybe that still sounds harsh, but you know, um, I didn't want to feel like overeating was breaking one of God's rules. I was just like, well, I God put me into a bad childhood, and I have this right to overeat, and there's nothing wrong with it. I shouldn't have to suffer consequences for it. But the reality is it's breaking a rule. it's breaking God's rules. So um, it just leads me to consequences in my own life. I become overweight. That's my consequence, right? So anyway, I can't go too much into it just because um, I'm not a homosexual. I don't really know that world that well. I just wanted to kind of hopefully make anybody that feels condemned by God for doing anything bad, it doesn't matter what it is, that it's not really like that. It's not bad. Um, you just have to watch out for your consequences. That's the main thing. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and end it there. Thank you for watching. Have a nice day.